And I wonder, do you think that society, people are changing? Do you think that maybe there's a bit of less community mindedness, less consideration of others, maybe a little bit more selfishness? Psychology consultant and author Dr. Jo Lukens is with me now to discuss this idea. Good morning.
Good morning, Susan.
Why is selfishness often viewed as maybe a negative trait?
It's certainly the case, isn't it, that if the accusation comes our way and we're told that we're being selfish, that's generally not considered to be an admirable quality that we might have. So often when we think about what selfishness is, we see it as where we prioritise our own interests at the expense of others or ignoring their needs. And generally that tendency is seen to be or conceptualised as being quite undesirable and can lead to conflict and a whole range of other things. And certainly as far as trust goes within communities, it can also pose some issues there.
Yeah. In times of crisis, people may become more self-focused. Is this necessarily detrimental or does it have some benefits?
It certainly does have some benefits, and there is definitely commentary around did we all become more selfish when COVID came through? Because it put many people into a survival mode, and by the very nature of that, we tend to look after ourselves first. It's very much, there's a lot of commentary around about that. What we know is if we think about what that is, looking after yourself, taking care of yourself, and it can help people to cope and to adapt when new challenges come along. So I think probably we could maybe broaden the view of what selfishness is, and I guess it depends on how you define it. When we have that helpful self-care, when we look after ourselves, it rejuvenates us, and then potentially it may even bring us closer to being able to look after others. So I can see that there are definitely benefits, and I don't necessarily always think of selfishness as being a fully negative trait.
I think it has over time developed that negative connotation. That selfishness is a very loaded word, but I think we often speak about you put your own mask on before you help other people, and it leans into that, I guess.
It is a little bit of that, and I think sometimes, like even if you think of two very similar terms, selfishness and self-care, and I guess part of it comes into that definition of you prioritising yourself over others, but every time you say no to others, prioritising yourself at that point in time, and is that always a bad thing? I don't think it always is.
Yeah, so that's probably one of those tricky balances that you are conflicting about energy-wise, but also in your need to be part of a community and to be part of a group. In your experience, how do people successfully balance the sort of instincts of self-interest and helping behaviour in daily life?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Because it does come down to how we view all of those behaviours, and it is about, interestingly, what we know is that one of the biggest predictors of happiness is helping others. So to help others is a selfless act, if we want to keep it in that terminology. And so we are putting our energy out into others. But like you say, it's a balancing act. There's a fine point, a sweet spot, if you like, of how do you put out enough energy without depleting yourself to the point that then you end up unwell or feeling exhausted or not, feeling resentful to others when you're trying to be careful and to look after others as well.
What are some of the positives that can arise from prioritising our own needs and boundaries, even if it is perceived as selfish?
Yeah, I think one of the advantages of it is it helps us to learn how to say no, which is for many people one of the hardest things to do. And I know certainly it's something I've found that I've got better at over time. And maybe that makes me sound selfish, I don't know. But I almost wear that as a badge of honour now, because it's by understanding what we say no to, it opens us up then to what we can say yes to.
Yes.
And potentially that might be more helpful for us. It might be more helpful for others. So it's one of these things that I think makes sense to a lot of people around this, because we're constantly being asked of our time and our resources and our energy into other people. So looking at how we manage that becomes an important thing for us to think through.
Ronnie has just said, I'm taking a selfie as you speak. That whole online culture as well, I think, has maybe fed into that self-focus.
Yes.
Because you are putting yourself in the spotlight.
That's right. And we have changed our communicating, haven't we? We put those selfies on, and I'm sure Ronnie's taken a great snap there of yourself, Ronnie. Surely. But we have that focus on myself. And even when we look at how inventions have changed how we communicate with us, once our phones had cameras in them that could then turn around and take a photo of us.
Yeah.
We were never taking photos of ourselves when we had the old-fashioned cameras, which I still like to use. So I think by its very nature, we've changed the way we communicate with others. And I guess as with all things, it's about being mindful around, am I looking after myself here? Am I looking after others? And how does the energy balance all fit around this?
What would be some of your advice to somebody who struggles to have those self-interest behaviours and prioritising your own self-interest?
It's certainly something I think we see more of, is that people say, give so much of myself to others and I don't know how to say no, or I don't want to let people down, or I want to people please, and all those sorts of things. And they're very admirable traits in some ways, but we know that comes at a cost, is that everything, whatever you say no to, then potentially enables you to say yes to things. And so I think it's really about being mindful of what's being asked of you, what your current resources are. What do you actually want to do? What are the things that motivate and drive you? And I think those are ways that we can think about it in terms of having a healthy balance. And I think probably the main thing is to remember that self-care isn't selfish. And in fact, the world, let's hope everyone looks after themselves just because everyone's awesome and look after yourself. But also the people around you need you to look after yourself as well. So I think that prioritising yourself at times is absolutely a great thing for us to do.
And I know I've heard from a few people, and even myself a little, who have struggled with the loaded aspect of the word selfish and self-care, is that I know that a lot of people are carers for loved ones, and sometimes you need to go, I need to do this so that I can look after this person that I love. Their priority is looking after somebody else, but they will do self-care because it gives them, it unlocks that ability to look after the person that they need to look after.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to think about it, and it's really important. Yeah, when you have others that you care for, and whether that be children, whether that be parents, family, friends, whoever that might be, or even in our work roles for those that are working in the helping professions, if your energy is going out into other people, those people need you to look after yourself and to have that self-care. And if you need to look at that through the lens of selfishness, that's another way to think about it.
Well, as of today, selfishness, not selfish.
Yes.
Not selfish. We've decided. Our psychology consultant, Dr. Jo Lukens, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank you. You are on ABC Queensland. It's nearly news time.